Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. We have Daniil Medvedev versus Lorenzo Musetti in the fourth round of the Rome Masters. We're going to get into it. Before we do though, remember to hit that like button, do subscribe if you're new, and do leave a rating or review if you're listening on a podcast platform. Thank you to our members on YouTube as well. Okay, so Medvedev is back, that's for sure. For now anyway. Medvedev is back. He's been playing some good tennis. Musetti himself has also been playing some really good tennis. We'll get into who they've beaten and also how they've looked so far on the clay court swing. I'll then break down very briefly tactically how I think it might play out, and then ultimately I'll give you guys my prediction. Before we do get into it though, the head-to-head is something I wanted to touch upon. So Medvedev has the head-to-head lead 2-0. They played twice in 2023. Both times on outdoor hard court. Pretty close together, I would say. Not extremely close together, but pretty close. Given that one was in Canada, or Montreal, or Toronto, depends on where it was. The NBO, I think it's the National Bank Open, isn't it? He lost 6-4, 6-4 there, Musetti. And then in Cincinnati, he also lost 6-3, 6-2. So Medvedev clearly... not surprising, I guess, on outdoor hard court, being the better of the two on the day anyway in 2023. Now, how they look so far in this tournament. From Medvedev, he's played Norrie and Popyrin, both straight set victories, very comfortable. I think he looked very good against Popyrin, clearly serving, in my opinion, well. And that's a really good sign of things to come from him, because he's suffered with some shoulder injuries in the last year or so, and the serve hasn't quite been as fluid as he'd like. He's looking in a better spot now, so that's a positive. For Musetti, he's played Vitanen and also Nakashima. Look, I mean, two solid wins, but in my opinion, neither of those players are going to or should cause him much trouble on clay. Now comes an interesting test, and for Musetti, he's had some good results, to say the least. Semi-finals of Madrid, lost to Jack Draper in the semis, then the final of Monte Carlo. So he's been a man in form, and wins over people like Tsitsipas, Dimona, Berrettini, Lehechka. You know, I mean, Barcelona, he didn't play. Madrid, he beat Tsitsipas again, Dimona again, Echeverry, Diallo. And the Draper match, you know, it was a close one. It was a close one. Draper played some really good tennis in that match, has to be said. We're back to the slow courts in Rome, which are more similar to Monte Carlo, where he made the final. I think he's actually the favourite. I think he's the favourite, despite the head-to-head. I just think clay is just such a different surface. It's his best surface. He's good on clay. He's got great variety as well, but I think the amount of revs, the amount of topspin he's able to exert, especially on his forehand side, is a big plus on this surface. He's playing with a lot of confidence as well now, and it's really shown in his footwork. He's hitting a lot of really potent in-to-in and inside-out forehands from that backhand corner, where maybe in the past he'd hit a backhand. His one-hander is one of the best on tour, no doubt, but when he's ripping his forehand, it's a real weapon. The serve is also looking good, and that's been a big positive. He's tweaked his technique slightly, and it seems to be paying dividends. He just isn't making as many errors as he did in the past, and also he's playing with more decisiveness, I think a more forceful type of style, which I think is good. In the past, he'd either go for too much and make errors, or actually he was potentially, I'd say, maybe at fault himself for being a bit too cautious and not really taking many risks and trying to almost play, not moonballing it, but yeah, playing it safe, I think is fair to say, and you know, not really taking the match by the scruff of the neck and relying pretty solely on his variety and guile, which, you know, is great, and there's no issue with him utilising that. He should. Having variety is a real positive on these clay courts, but you also need to be able to have a potent forehand. You need to have a good serve. You need to be returning well. You need to be moving well. And those are the biggest, I think, factors on clay to make sure that you're able to dictate in the points, because defending point in, point out, even on clay, it's not going to win you many matches, especially given the type of tennis we're seeing from players on the ATP Tour. In saying that, someone who does love defending is Daniil Medvedev, and he does defend a lot of defending from 5 meters behind the baseline, returning from 5 meters behind the baseline, and he has not had the best of years so far. Quarterfinal in Madrid was pretty good, I thought. Some decent victories there. Monte Carlo round of 16. Hasn't really beaten anyone of note though in the last few tournaments, and that's been, I think, the biggest sticking point for him. And he's seeded number 10 here. Musetti's number 8. And I think Musetti is just... I don't think he's going to struggle as much as he did on the hard courts with Medvedev. I think with Medvedev, he relies a lot on flat hitting, on flat ball striking. It doesn't really hold up on clay like it does on a grass, or especially a hard court. It just sits up nicely for the most part. So unless he's going to hit with absolute laser-like depth on both wings and really force Musetti into awkward situations by really hitting a lot of pace with the court, I don't think it's going to have the type of effect to really trouble Musetti, in my opinion. One thing though that I have seen from him is the ability to whip the forehand with a lot of topspin and almost go buggy whip, and that can be effective at times, and that variety is definitely helpful. Also, the drop shot has been good. It's very awkward looking. It tends to be the backhand slice drop shot, and it's a very awkward looking shot, but it is effective for the most part. So that's something that he could utilize. Musetti sometimes can be quite far behind the baseline, especially on return points. Both players, can stand quite far back on return, but that's pretty normal for the majority of players when they're playing on slow clay courts like in Rome. They will take a bit more space behind the baseline to give themselves more time, given that majority of serves on clay are kick serves, because they know that they can get a lot more height, make it really awkward with the high bouncing surface, so that the returner is having to return at shoulder height. So by coming back though, it does open up more angles, the serve out wide, serve and volley, etc. I do wonder whether Musetti might throw in a few serve and volleys. I imagine he will, instead, rather than doing that, he will choose opportunities, he will choose opportunities to come in when he sees, a shorter ball or an opportunity where Medvedev is really far behind the baseline or dragged out wide to then come to net and finish. Because I don't think that's a bad choice at all. Backhand to backhand, it might be a bit awkward for Musetti because Medvedev's backhand is super flat. And even on clay, it's not ideal for Musetti, but what he will do quite well is slice that backhand. And again, it's not as potent on clay, but it's a good change-up. He really knifes it. I think that'll put him in good stead. It won't be as potent and as effective against Medvedev, who doesn't necessarily like to hit his backhand at ankle height, but it will still have enough of an effect to give him the variety he needs to then open up with a forehand in that backhand corner, or give him an easier backhand to hit. So I think that's really the key there, right? The forehand's been popping, as I said, for Musetti, and I think that's been a real plus. Prediction-wise, look, Medvedev is not playing badly. Medvedev does look to be truly alive right now, but my feeling is that Musetti is the more informed player on clay. I think his game is going to be more of a handful for Medvedev than maybe he might be expecting. So I'm going to go with Musetti. You know what? In straight sets. I'm going for it. I'm going big. Let me know in the comment section below what you think and why. Thanks very much, guys. Stay safe and well. We'll see you on the next video.